Hello, hello. Today we've got Red Riding Hood from 2011, the retelling of the classic, I don't know if it's like a Grimm fairy tale, but it's old. And yeah, I'm not sure if it follows the source material better than like the children's story, but a lot of those stories tend to be twisted, so I believe that it might. Anyway, spoiler alert. You know the drill. Do I really have to go over it every video? Probably. I'm going to be talking about the movie. If you don't want it spoiled, do not watch. Okay, so there's this town, and it's plagued by wolf attacks. So basically, the town has made a pact with the wolf to sacrifice a pig or a goat or some kind of like livestock every full moon in order for the town to be protected. And to this point, the wolf had essentially agreed with this. So they'd put the animal out as a sacrifice, it would take that, no villagers would be harmed, etc. Cool. Until one night, the sister of Valerie, who in this story, that's the name of Little Red Riding Hood. Her name is Valerie. I'm going to call her V for this for short. I have a friend named Valerie and I call her V, so it'll just be easier for me. Anyway, it's her sister that is killed as the first victim in like a long time. So obviously she's not happy, neither is her family. And yeah, the village is not happy either. They're unsure of what's going on. There's another subplot too where V is being like arranged marriage to this guy named Henry, but she's in love with this other dude named Peter, and it's a whole ordeal with the mama saying like you got to do what's best for her. Like you're a lumberman, he's a blacksmith, he makes way more money, he's better for her in the long run, etc. And he's kind of like, yeah, I guess you're right. And there's a whole thing with that. But back to the main point of the story. That plays an important role in the story, don't get me wrong, but there's also another plot where Henry, the man who V is arranged to be married to, was the object of affection of her little sister who was killed by the wolf. So there's some thinking too of maybe she found out and was heartbroken and offered herself to the wolf or something. We figure out what happened later, but that's the general thought. So obviously, like I said, town is not thrilled. One of their own, one of their, members of the family, the dad's not thrilled. Like they go to the pub and they basically say, let's go kill the wolf. So it can't come out on in the sunlight, is what they're saying. It lives in a lair like down in the woods or whatever, so we're gonna go and we're gonna kill it. And they do that. They go into the woods, they find the lair, they go in. One of them dies right away. It ends up being Henry's dad, actually. So there's a fork, and they split. And Henry and his dad and Peter and a couple other guys go down one, and then some other guys go down another. Then there's a second fork, and so, Henry's like, or Peter's like, we gotta split up. And he's like, no, we're getting thin now in numbers. I don't think we should split up. I think we should stick together. And Peter's like, no. He's got a little bit of a grudge, I guess, because like this is the guy that's gonna be marrying the girl that he's in love with, and that whole deal. So, but either way, I mean, yeah, they should have stuck together. Let's be real. But at least someone in the movie had the sense to think, no, let's not split up anymore. Like, we have a good enough group now to take a wolf, but if we split up again, we're gonna have like 2 or 3 guys. It's not enough. Anyway, lo and behold, Henry's dad gets killed by the wolf. They end up killing the wolf anyway. So, problem solved, right? Short movie. No. So before this hunting party went out, the local priest had called on this gentleman called Father Solomon, who is like a known witch and werewolf killer. Like, he hunts them. He's like the Van Helsing, I guess, of this little town. Gorgeous scenery, by the way. I'm interrupting the story for a second, but like the cinematography, like everything was shot very, very beautifully. Yeah, but we'll talk about that more at the end. I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away. Sidetracked. So what the hell is it talking about? Right. So the priest calls his Father Solomon, who's the known witch and werewolf and beastie hunter. He's the, you know, the Buffy of the town, the Van Helsing, the Blade, whatever you want to compare him to. And he arrives, and his daughters are with him, and he has like a bunch of armed guards with him, and he's prepped. He's ready to take this thing out, but everyone's like, no, you're too late. We already killed it. And they have the wolf's head on a pike and everything, and they're like, we're going to celebrate tonight. We're going to throw a celebration. And then the father just looks at the guy holding the pike. He's like, that's not a werewolf, dude. That's a gray wolf. And they're like, no, that's a werewolf. We found it. We killed it. And he's like, no, you didn't, because I've killed a werewolf. And I'll tell you right now, when they're dead, they turn back into a human. That's a gray wolf. I'm telling you right now. They still don't believe him. He tells a whole story how his wife was actually a werewolf and he had to kill his wife. Cut her hand off, and then when she died, her hand turned back into like a human hand. And he even carries it around in a little box, and he shows everyone like, look, I'm telling you, like this... I told my daughters that she was killed by the werewolf, but she was the werewolf. Like, I know. And they're like, no, we're partying, we killed it, it's fine. It's like, alright, you guys are fucking stupid. But you go do your thing. But we'll see who's right. Anyway. Go figure. Father Solomon's right. The guy who knows his stuff versus the guy who saw a wolf for the first time ever and killed it and thought it was a werewolf was right. So go figure. They're having their little party adventure thing, and there's like a... shortly before the night party... Oh, it's a blood moon, by the way. So, okay. So here's the thing in this story. Full moon, werewolf comes out, a bite will kill you. Blood moon, however... if you don't know what that is, it's like the reflection of Mars makes the moon like a red color or something like that, I think. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But anyway, blood moon is when if a wolf bites you, you turn into a wolf. So that's kind of neat lore. I don't know if that's like the general lore or if it's just if it bites you, you're a wolf. But that's kind of cool. I like that a lot. So it's a blood moon. So basically anyone who gets bitten is going to turn. And they have to be killed if they're bitten. Like... That's just the way it is. Anyway, they have their adventure, and they have their party, but before the party, the mom confronts Peter, and he's like, you gotta, like, not pursue my daughter. She's set to marry this guy who's a good guy. He'll treat her well. He has lots of money. Way better for her. And he agrees, because he cares about her, right? So, Peter is at this party with some other girl, dancing around and flirting with her and whatever, and yeah. So obviously V isn't too impressed, so she takes her friend and starts dancing with her friend, like to make him jealous. I don't know what the plan was there, but anyway, they're like having a non-obvious ballroom dance-off, or like Celtic folk dance-off, or whatever you want to call it. You know, when they have their hands and they turn and stuff like that kind of thing. Not like the Hobbit pub dancing thing from Lord of the Rings. It was like a more formal and slow. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So that happens, and anyway, she confronts him after. She's like, Peter, what are you doing? Like, I love you. Like, I don't want to marry this guy. And he's like, yeah, but it's better for you. It was never a thing for me. He's lying, obviously. He's totally into her. But he's lying. And anyway, they end up, like, fornicating in the hay. You gotta love hay sex, right? Is the thing. And Henry sees this. So that's rough. Like, yeah, it's an arranged marriage and shit. But, like, I will say this about the character of Henry is, like, he did seem like a genuinely good guy. He was doing his best, respecting her. He's, like, treating her as good as he can, paid the respects when the father died, all that stuff. So not like your typical, you know, teen slasher movie guy where he's just trying to get punched. Anyway, that aside, I feel for the guy a bit. Like, yeah, it's rough. Anyway, they do that, and he's called away, and later, Henry confronts her, and he's like, yeah, I saw what you and Peter were doing, and I'm not going to force you into marrying you. I want to, and I'm trying to be, like, a good guy, but I'm not going to make you do something you don't want to do. I'll call off the engagement. We're good. And she's like, wow, this guy is, like, decent. Anyway, so that's the case there. During the party, the wolf attacks, though. So, go figure. Kills a bunch of people. He's chased off eventually by Solomon and his guards, but he ends up finding V and her friend in an alley and cornering them, and it starts talking to Valerie, like, psychically, saying, like, I know you, I sent something in you, blah, 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 you should come with me, or you're going to come with me. And she's like, no. And he's like, all right, I'll be back for you. And at that point, the guards, like, Solomon's brigade sees him and starts shooting, like, silver-tip crossbows, so the wolf takes off. Good times. Doesn't kill Val, though, which is great for her. Not so much in the long run, because it... Okay, so basically, he says, okay, I fucking a told so, to quote Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. Father Solomon tells the village, like, I told you guys, you didn't kill the werewolf, you killed the wolf, and now you know. You saw that thing move. A wolf doesn't do that kind of jumping from building to building and shit, and it's like 3 times the size of a gray wolf. Like, now you guys are aware, and the town is like, yeah, okay, sorry. Our bad. And he says, so, here's the thing about werewolves. They don't hide in a lair in the forest, in a cave. They live among you. They're people. Like I said, my wife. That's a pretty good example right there. So literally, it could be anyone. It could be your sister, your mother, your partner, like anyone. Something to think about. So basically, he says to everyone, this is what's happening. We're going to do a massive search of every household in the village. If you have any secrets, I'm sorry, they're going to come out. But if you're not the wolf, it'll be obvious you're not the wolf. You'll be fine. If you are, you will be killed. Simple as that. They do the search. I don't know if they actually finish or not, but they end up... So he's obviously like anti-witchcraft and everything, right? So tarot cards to the church were like witchcraft, essentially. So there's this one character who's like playing with like magic. Like not like magic, but like pick a card magic type stuff, like sleight of hand. To one of the guards, he like pulls a tarot card from behind his ear and stuff, and I think he's like... I don't know if he's like on the spectrum or special or something like that, but he's like a little off. In those days, I guess they'd call him like the town fool or something. I don't know what the... They don't go into detail of what's up with him, but he's like off a little bit. Anyway, Father Solomon is like, okay, we're gonna take this guy and we're gonna get info out of him, because he is playing with magic, which is a big no-no. So I don't know if you guys know what the bronze bull is. It was a torture method of the ancient Romans, and he mentions that, except he has an iron elephant. So, same concept though, you light a fire under it, you put the person inside it, and it heats up, and the person will eventually reveal what they're hiding due to the excruciating, overwhelming pain of burning hot metal on your skin. Absolutely horrific. I think that's one of the worst torture methods I can think of. Well, no, because there are some messed up ones, but it's up there for sure. It's pretty sadistic. So anyway, they throw him in this iron elephant and light the fire, and he's screaming, and I guess eventually he doesn't give any information, so they pull him out before he dies, and they throw him in jail. And the sister, who's Val's friend, is like, listen, puts money on the table, says, I want to pay for my brother's release. He's innocent. You know, like he's off, but he's innocent. And he's like, this isn't a lot of money. She's like, I have more money. I have more than money too. And she like starts to like hint that she's offering herself. And the priest is like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Anyway, this friend was with Val when the wolf was talking to her. She couldn't hear the talking, but Val had told her after, like, the wolf was like in my head talking to me. So she says to Father, if you guarantee my brother's release, I will tell you the name of a witch in this village. And the father's like, okay, that is a pretty good deal. So she rats out Val right in front of everyone. They have like a town hall meeting. She's like, yeah, she's a witch, like, has to be. The werewolf spoke to her. I didn't hear it. It was growls, but it talked to her head. And the father's like, okay, Valerie, do you deny this? And she says, no, I don't deny that. That did happen. He's like, okay. Well, you're honest. I mean, that's something. So he doesn't like right out kill her or anything. But she says, you got to tell me who this wolf is. She doesn't know. So she's thrown in jail. And some of the things like that were held against her were like her Red Riding Hood, the little cowl that she has with the red hood and red cape. He's like, that's the devil's color. And the grandma's like, I literally made that for her wedding gift. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway. At one point too, Henry thinks that maybe the grandma's the werewolf. There's a lot of like, who's the werewolf, right? So at one point you kind of think it's Henry. At one point you kind of think it's Peter. Another point you think maybe it's the grandma. Another point you think maybe it's the priest, like the local priest, not Father Solomon. We'll find out later who it is. Anyway, there's a lot of that. So she gets locked up. And yeah, she's in jail. They end up catching the father too, because they don't want the father to be like a nuisance with his daughter, so they capture him and put him in jail. And yeah, that's the gist of it. Sorry, my brain is like smoothing over, becoming reptilian here in my old age. Anyway, she ends up getting out of jail. Well, not getting out of jail, but they take her out of jail and they tie her up as like a sacrifice. They're like, hey, the wolf wants you, so what we're going to do is we're going to put you in the center of town, tied up. Wolf can take you. It can frig off. Peace will be restored to the kingdom. And then secretly we'll go kill it. Anyway, so that happens. Peter and... So the father had, before being arrested, made like a trail of like alcohol or kerosene or something leading up in a line or whatever, and the plan was he was going to help Peter and Henry free her, so that's good. So then he gets arrested after that. So night comes, moon's coming up, she's chained up. Peter takes a torch, puts it on the fire as a diversion. So there's a big line of fire. I think one of the buildings catches on fire, so obviously everyone is like trying to panic and deal with that. And the smoke is kind of covering the area where Valerie is. And that's when Henry sneaks in, and he's a locksmith slash blacksmith, whatever. So he's picking the locks, getting her out of there. That's his skill. May as well use it, right? Yeah, gets her out. They escape. There's a bit of a chase scene. They end up getting away. They shoot, like, they're gonna shoot him or something, and then like the priest, like the local priest, knocks the guy with the crossbow out of the way, and then obviously that's not gonna fly with Father Solomon, who then stabs the priest. So priest isn't the werewolf, clearly, so that's one down. They end up right, okay, so then the wolf attacks again. And this time, it's not pissing around. Everyone's in the church property except for Valerie, who Solomon is keeping out with a sword. Like, she's free, but you're not getting on hallowed ground because the wolf can't go on hallowed ground. Holy ground, whatever. So that's fine. Anyway, the wolf shows up and goes into action. Just basically... No one puts up much of a fight this time, so even Father Solomon gets his arm bitten, like, his arm bitten off, like, right here. So that's fun. Weird fact, like, so obviously Father Solomon is being like a slayer of creepy crawly beastie things. He knows his stuff, so he has like silver infused sharp nails and stuff too, I guess he was gonna, but it didn't do anything for this thing because it didn't even get a chance to do that. So I mean, that was well played, but didn't come into effect, unfortunately. Anyway, that being said, the wolf, at this point, yeah, he bites his arm off, and then Valerie's able to get onto hallowed ground, and the wolf tries to put his paw, but the paw, like, starts burning like embers, and he's like, oh, okay, I can't do that. You win this round, Dondelinger. Yeah, wolf takes off, says, I'm coming back for you. Like, this ain't over, you know? So that's fun. Father Solomon's lying on the ground, and the guard, who in the first wolf attack had lost his brother. So the wolf had bitten his brother, and Father Solomon had killed his brother in front of him and said, listen, if you're bitten, you're cursed. Unfortunately, you have to die. We don't have a choice. We cannot let this curse spread. So Father Solomon, guess what? He got his arm bitten off. So this guy gets a little bit of a sick revenge. He has a sword to him. He's like, I gotta do what I gotta do, repeats his words. Solomon's like, you're gonna orphan my daughter. He's like, yeah, well, my brother had daughters too. Kills him. So Solomon's dead. That's Gary Oldman, by the way. Excellent actor. In this, he was pretty good too. But yeah, he's just, I love Gary Oldman. So that's actually what drew me into this movie in the first place. Turns out Amanda Seyfried is in it too, which is fun. She's all right. But Gary Oldman is if he's in a movie, it's usually pretty good. So I trust his judgment on taking a role. Anyway, back to the story. That happens. And Val that night has like a dream of her grandma. She wakes up. You think it's like reality. She wakes up and her grandma's beside her and her eyes are like jet black. And props to the directors or the producers or scriptwriters or whatever. Because then we get the grandma, what big eyes you have, all the better to see you with, my dear. What big ears you have, all the better to see you with, my dear. What big teeth you have, all the better to eat you with. And then she wakes up and is not there. And she takes that as a sign of, oh shit, something's wrong with grandma. I gotta go make sure she's okay. Anyway, again, props for taking the actual line from the story. Good job. I was wondering if they were going to fit any of that into this, because up to this point it wasn't really following the story that I remember. But anyway. She goes and checks on her grandma, and she enters her grandma's house, shuts the door, closes everything. Her and her grandma are super close, by the way. And there's like a brief wolf shadow in the grandma's room behind like a curtain, and then she shakes her head and it's her grandma's shadow, and she calls out and he's like, yeah, I made you some soup there or whatever. And she takes the soup and she bites it and she looks at it and it's like really weirdly. She's like, what is this? And then her dad walks out. Lo and behold, her dad is the werewolf. Well then. I actually did think for sure it was the grandma. They were like subtly hinting at it. Not like super obvious. Well, I mean, it was pretty obvious, but it wasn't because it wasn't her, right? So anyway, they misdirected me very well. So either I'm stupid or they did a good job, or both. But props to them for pulling the wool over my eyes. Anyway, it's the dad. He says basically he had to kill the grandma, unfortunately, because she finally found out what he was. His dad was a werewolf, and like she was just used to the smell because she was always around the dad, so she couldn't like pick up the subtle werewolfy smell of him or something along those lines. Anyway, he says, okay, so here's the deal. I know your mom was cheating on me because I went on the blood moon. The rite of passage is to pass it off to my eldest daughter, which was the sister of Val, who was killed by the werewolf, which ends up being the dad. But I can't remember if I mentioned this or not. It's a whole like convoluted like who's in love with who type deal. It's kind of funny. The mom was in love with Henry's dad, and the reason that she married Val to Henry is because despite Henry and the older sister having a crush for each other, they weren't fully aware that they were actually half siblings. So that's why anyway, so that happened. But we find out that the father found this out when he lured his daughter with a fake letter from Henry to the alley and tried to talk to her telepathically, but she couldn't understand him. Only apparently his true blood would be able to understand him in wolf form, which she did not. He knew instantly, shit. She's not my blood. Anyway, didn't really have a choice. In his mind, he killed her. And that's also why he killed Henry's dad, because he had been with his wife. I get it, at least, it's vengeance and whatnot. It's just like raw bloodlust or anything. It's actual like targeted vengeance. He didn't want to hurt his daughter or anyone, but it's just, you're at that point, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the deal with that. But when he spoke to Val could hear him and understand his like telepathic speaking, so he knew, okay, this is my actual eldest daughter. So now he's saying, listen, it's the red moon, it's your rite of passage now. I'm gonna turn you into a werewolf. And she's like, no, I'm good, thank you. Anyway, that's when Peter decides to show up. She ran into him on the way to the grandma's house. I forgot to mention this. And like, it seemed like she was convinced that he was the werewolf, because where was he all night? She didn't know he was stuck in that like iron bowl thing that the guards threw him in. He was just gone, and it was just suspicious. And then he just shows up on the path following her when she's alone. And yeah, I get it, girl. I'm with you there. Don't worry. But she cuts him and leaves him and takes off. Anyway, he followed her anyway because he's not the wolf. So he's like, hey, you're gonna like run into trouble here. Ends up attacking the dad. Fails like spectacularly. He's like, yeah, you're not a wolf now, so I can take you, old man. He's like, I'm still friggin' strong, dude. So he like axe catches it, and he's like with all his strength trying to push this axe, and the dad just like throws him through the wall or the window or whatever. So yeah, Peter, good, nice attempt, but nice fail also. It didn't follow through fully with that one. But she ends up saying, Dad, I brought you something. And she has her like little basket, you know, Little Red Riding Hood with the basket. Well, she has the basket. In the basket is the severed hand of Father Solomon with his silver-tipped spiked nail things, which she puts in his chest, while he also gets an axe in the back from what's his name? Buddy boy. I just forgot. Peter, thank you. And that's it. Turns out, though, unfortunately, Peter was bitten by the dad, so that's not good. They're basically, she's trying to say, okay, well, now we're going to run off together. He's like, no, I've been bitten. That's not going to work. That's not good. And that's unfortunate. And then they say, okay, listen, so what we got to do is we got to make sure nobody finds out that your dad was the wolf. Because if they do, you will be the wolf's daughter. You will be toast. Like, there's no hope for you if that happens. So they like they cut into the dad's chest, like I guess like a wolf slash, and they throw him in the lake, and Val gets off the boat and turns and realizes that Peter's rowing away. He's like, listen, I can't stay with you. I'm sorry. Like, until I'm able to control this enough to protect you from me, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting you in danger. I'm not putting the village in danger. I'm just not going to do that. She's like, all right, I get it. I'll wait for you. Be still, my heart. So he frigs off. Anyway, there's like a little end scene where, or not an end scene, but a little summary where it says, she narrates that the wolf never comes back to the village, but they still live in fear. They still do the nightly animal outside, but the wolf never takes the animals either, so. But they continue doing the tradition, but she's like, okay, this is like, I'm over it. It's too old-fashioned. She leaves. She leaves her village. Henry ends up being like the leader of like the creepy beastie hunters or something like that. So props to him. He didn't get the girl, but he had a good ending. Redeemed himself. He was a little bit of a coward in the beginning, but he definitely overcame that halfway through, and at the end, obviously becoming a leader. Anyway, long story short, as she's leaving the village, eventually, it's alluded to, at some point in her travels, she comes across Peter again, and he's in wolf form, but doesn't attack, meaning he has, like, control of it or something, and she smiles, and the credits go. So, that's the movie. I will be honest here, I was not expecting it to be very good. Again, I like Gary Oldman, so I knew that, like, he would be good in it no matter what. Amanda Seyfried is decent too for the most part, from what I've seen her in. So I anticipated her to be alright too. But like, everything was really way better than I thought it would be. The cinematography was really nice. Like the forested scenes, the village, the different atmospheres of each like setting was really done well. The music was really cool too, actually. I'm trying to think specifically what songs they used or what kind of instrumentation they used, and I don't really remember, but I remember it really fit it felt good when you're watching it, like it melded together nicely. Everyone's acting was pretty solid. Even the people that I don't know who they were decent. The story was good. I read some reviews of this, and it was getting like, 5s, and like, I think the highest one I saw was like 6, and then there were like 4s and stuff, and like, I don't understand. I thought it was actually pretty fun. It was a good take on the classic story. Again, I don't know if it's following the original actual story or if it's like putting a twist on it or whatever, but I really liked it. And I'm gonna rate it probably higher than I should, But just coming off it right now, I'm going to give it a... I'm going to put it in the 8s. Man. I'm going to say 8.7. I really liked it. And I mean, I might regret this later because I just saw it and I'm just coming down off of enjoying it. And also it was like, I wasn't expecting much, so there's that. But I'm giving it an 8.7. I really liked it. I would watch it again. I might even go buy the DVD. I watched it on, I think, Cineplex or something. I rented it. But yeah, it's a movie I would own. I liked it. It was good. Should you watch it? I really think so. I mean, it was fun. All around, I can't really think of anything too negative about it, in all honesty. Based on what I was expecting, it surpassed everything I expected. So, given that, that's the rating. And there you go. Red Riding Hood. Yeah. Go check it out. All right. Bye.